what is needed to actually change the culture within this community that I'm living in order to make it a better place, not only for me, but for my children as well. So when you consider injustice, consider what's going on, the indicators in your society that's making it hard for people not to pass judgment, which leads to injustice. You have to look at what's going on there. Sometimes when you don't have the growth and progression in this area of your life vocation, you may want to consider changing what you're doing. And I don't want to get all religious about this. And I want to share my testimony and my story and my struggles of growth with you. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Welcome back to KDC on the Move. I'm Barry Frazier, your host. This week we're going to be talking about seeking justice. You know, justice is misunderstood at times because sometimes people think that justice means equity and equality. And that's not always the case. Justice is doing the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. And we're looking at, society, and I was talking to my team, a couple of weeks ago about, all the public imagery that we were seeing about, males, not getting a fair shake in society, and we're being looked upon as being, not fitting the bill. We constantly are visiting that topic because we want to make sure that the images that we're projecting to society is one that we want our children and our young men to emulate. And justice is hard to come by in our society because you have people who are ever changing their perspectives, their views on life, and life is fluid. And trying to nail down what is considered justice for this particular group of people or this particular group of people or this particular group of people, it's kind of hard. So I'm going to speak from my perspective on my position and what I'm looking at and what my team is looking at as far as seeking justice for male youth. We look at, the reading levels in school, and a lot of our boys are not, living up to par, on what their expectations are in the school. So what is the first thing that they try to do? They try to stick them in special education, which is not something that we subscribe to. You think about them also in the public eye just because they wear their clothes a little bit bigger and they wear hoodies and they're looked upon as being thugs. I graduated from Emory University, and I love hoodies. I love jeans, I love Timberland boots, but that doesn't mean that I'm a thug, So you have to look at what images that you are judging, because the images that you judge determine the type of justice that you extend to the people in your community. We have to take a real look at that, and we have to be honest with ourselves. What is pride and prejudice? Pride in who you are in your community and your love affair for the people around you. Prejudice is one of those things that you make judgments about the pride that you have for your community. So when you mix in pride and prejudice, it often leads to injustice, because you're judging the world based on just your social location. And me being a therapist, I have to be honest about the changing perspective of men, the changing perspective of women, because it's ever evolving. So we can't just identify as justice as being, let's go march on Washington. No, you have to look at your local community and look at the injustices that's in your community and ask your question, why? Why is this happening in my community? Then you have to do your due diligence to look at the surrounding community. What is the history of that community? Why do they believe what they believe? Why do they look upon this particular group of people the way they look at this particular group of people? And then you have to come to a needs analysis to say what is needed to actually change the culture within this community that I'm living in order to make it a better place, not only for me, but for my children as well. So when you consider injustice, consider what's going on, the indicators in your society that's making it hard for people not to pass judgment, which leads to injustice. You have to look at what's going on there. And don't be afraid to challenge that. We spoke several weeks ago about, using your voice, and we was talking about voting. Don't be afraid to speak up for what you believe in, because you can't be afraid of running the risk of, offending people, because you're going to offend people every day of your life. Because you have to stand for something, you have to believe in something, and you have to make your mark on society in order to leave, a sense of legacy, not just for you, but to say that you made a difference in the community around you by eliminating injustice in every possible way or form that you can. Remember, there comes a time where you have to set aside your own selfish ambitions and put forth what your community needs to make your community not only a good place for you, but it's also make a mark on your community. So even after you are gone from that community, it's still thriving, because no good agency thrives on the personality of one person being there. A good agency thrives no matter if that leader is in place or not. So you have to develop your communities to that same degree and put them in position, your communities in position, to be successful even after you are long gone from your community. And the only way we can do that is address the topic of injustice and find ways to create justice by removing our judgments about people and accepting them for who they are, and trying to create avenues for people to blend together in how you view life. Gentlemen, I know this is one of those topics that you really don't want to address, but you're gonna have to make some moves. You're gonna have to get out there and get involved. You're gonna have to put your hands in mud in order to rebuild your communities by eliminating injustice. Remember, kings create kings.
All I got is me and my brothers, and I know in my heart, God up beside, ride for my brothers, die for my brothers, shed a tear, I cry for my brothers. All I got is me and my brothers, and I know in my heart, God